Consider now then objections to the second premise, that the universe began to exist. Objection number 6. Nothing ever begins to exist, for the material of which a thing consists precedes it. So it is not true that the universe began to exist. Response to number 6. I think this is my favorite bad objection, since the assertion that nothing ever begins to exist is so patently ridiculous. Did I exist before I was conceived? If so, where was I? What was I doing during the Jurassic period? Has the World Trade Center always existed? If so, why didn't the Native American Indians notice it? This objection obviously confuses a thing with the matter or stuff of which the thing is made. Just because the stuff of which something was made has always existed doesn't imply that the thing itself has always existed. Now, since writing this talk, it has occurred to me that the objector could save himself from the embarrassment of affirming that he has always existed by adopting what's called Mereological nihilism, which is the view that there are no composite objects. That is to say, all that exists are just fundamental particles which are arranged in various ways. So in fact, there really are no chairs or tables or horses or people or palm trees. There are just fundamental particles which are arranged chair-wise or table-wise or people-wise. And so in denying that he ever began to exist, the objector isn't affirming that he's always existed. Rather, what he's denying is that he ever does exist. So in this case, the cure is really worse than the disease, because now instead of saying he has always existed, what the objector has to say is that he doesn't exist. The objector literally does not exist. Now, if that's the case, then it might make us wonder why we should bother responding to him if he doesn't exist. What this implies is that, in fact, nobody, literally nobody, has ever raised this objection, because there aren't any people. But this is surely absurd. Am I to affirm that I do not exist? It reminds me of the undergraduate student who had been reading Descartes and burst into his professor's office early one morning, bleary-eyed and unshaven. Obviously, he had been up all night. He was very distraught, and he said, "Professor, tell me, do I exist?" And the professor looked at him and said, "Who wants to know?" The idea that one does not exist is surely metaphysically absurd. So that it seems to me that this is simply to jump out of the frying pan into the fire. Well, the serious point of this muddled objection, I think, is its presupposition that everything that begins has a material cause. But that claim is irrelevant to the truth of the two premises of the Kalam Cosmological Argument, and it would require proof in any case. Now, it is true, I think, that in our experience, material things do not begin to exist without material causes. So we do have the same sort of inductive evidence on behalf of material causation as we have for efficient causation. But if we have good arguments and evidence that the material realm had an absolute beginning preceded by nothing, this can override the inductive evidence. What we cannot reasonably say, I think, is that the universe sprang into being without either an efficient or a material cause, since being does not come from non-being. But there's no sort of metaphysical absurdity involved in something's having an efficient cause, but no material cause.
I believe it was objection number 6, talking about the things don't actually come into existence.
Yes.
And you had given the possibility of the Mereological
nihilism.
But is that really even, according to the quote you gave by Plato, is that even possible, because it speaks of changing and alteration as well, needing a cause? And so even if it's just an arrangement of particles, those particles still change to different arrangements. And so
Yes.
would they have to avoid it, would they have to devolve all the way to a sort of pantheism where there actually is no distinction in any kind of entity?
Well, this is a very good question, and I was ad-libbing at that point in my lecture this evening, and I had intended to say a further comment, but I neglected because I didn't have notes. And that is, we can actually reformulate or rephrase the Kalam argument to meet the scruples of the Mereological nihilist. And it would go like this. If fundamental particles arranged universe-wise begin to exist, they have a cause. Premise 2, the fundamental particles arranged universe-wise began to exist. 3, therefore, the fundamental particles arranged universe-wise have a cause. So you can simply reformulate the argument to meet the demands of the Mereological nihilist, whose view in any case I think is absolutely mad. As I say, I at least exist, even if nothing else does. But we can rephrase the argument in such a way as to not assume that the universe is a composite object.